Imagine something your body already makes in tiny amounts, that's also found in coconut oil and even human breast milk, and that can poke holes in certain germs in a test tube. That's monolaurin. Sounds powerful, right? But here's the twist. For all the hype online, real human research on monolaurin supplements is still surprisingly small and very early. Quick reminder before we start. Don't start, stop, or change any supplement or medication without talking with a qualified health professional who knows your personal history. So what is monolaurin? Chemically, it's basically a mashup of one molecule of lauric acid plus one molecule of glycerol. Lauric acid is a medium-chain fat that's especially rich in coconut oil and palm kernel oil, and it also shows up in human breast milk. When your body digests lauric acid, it can convert some of it into monolaurin. Food manufacturers also make monolaurin and use it as a food-grade emulsifier and preservative, and it's classified as generally recognized as safe, or GRAS, for use in foods. Think of lauric acid as a pile of identical Lego blocks. Glycerol is the little connecting platform. When you snap one lauric acid block onto the glycerol platform, you get monolaurin, a slightly different shape that behaves differently in your body and in lab experiments than lauric acid alone.
How might this actually work in you? There are a few main ideas. First, monolaurin seems to interact with the fatty outer shell of certain microbes in lab studies. Many bacteria and some viruses have a lipid or fat-based coating. Monolaurin appears to insert itself into that coating and destabilize it, kind of like dish soap breaking up grease on a pan. That can make those microbes less able to stick, grow, or survive in a petri dish. The key phrase there is in a petri dish. That's lab work, not your living body. Second, monolaurin may change the way some bacteria form biofilms. A biofilm is a slimy protective layer that bacteria build to shield themselves, like a microscopic apartment complex. Some lab work suggests monolaurin can disrupt biofilm formation and bacterial communication signals, at least in controlled experiments. That might be one reason it's being explored in topical gels and mouth products for things like vaginal infections or gum health. Third, there's early discussion that monolaurin might gently influence immune signaling and inflammation. Some authors describe it as potentially helping the body calm noise from an overactive immune response while still letting normal defense work. That's an interesting theory, but it hasn't been proven in large, long-term human trials yet. So for now, think of monolaurin as a supporting character in the broader story of fats, immunity, and the microbiome. Does your body make monolaurin on its own? Yes, to a degree. When you eat lauric acid-rich foods, your digestive system can create monolaurin as part of normal fat digestion. But it's not considered an essential nutrient, like vitamin C, where a deficiency causes a clear disease. There's no official monolaurin deficiency, no standard blood test or agreed-on target blood level. Factors like your overall fat intake, how much coconut or palm-based fat you eat, your gut health, and your genetics likely affect how much you make, but we don't have precise charts for this.
Let's talk about practical sources, starting with food. You don't really find label-friendly monolaurin in whole foods, but you do find lauric acid, which your body can turn into monolaurin. The heaviest hitters are coconut products: coconut oil, coconut milk, coconut cream, and unsweetened shredded coconut. Coconut oil is about half lauric acid by weight. Palm kernel oil is another lauric-rich fat, but it's less commonly used in home cooking. In real-life terms, 1 tablespoon of coconut oil is about 14 grams. If roughly half of that is lauric acid, you're getting around 7 grams of lauric acid from a tablespoon, or about 15 grams of lauric acid from 2 tablespoons. 15 to 30 grams of oil total, which is 1 to 2 tablespoons. If you enjoy coconut foods and your overall saturated fat intake is in a healthy range, that can be a reasonable way to support your natural monolaurin production. Just remember, those calories add up quickly, and high saturated fat intake isn't the right move for everyone, especially if you have high LDL cholesterol or heart disease risk. When might food be enough? If you eat a varied diet with some coconut products here and there, have a generally resilient immune system, and don't have a specific medical condition related to fat metabolism, you probably don't need a monolaurin supplement.
Your body is already getting lauric acid from food and making some monolaurin on its own. So, where do supplements come in? Monolaurin supplements usually come as capsules, soft gels, or little pellets or beads. Typical capsule strengths are around 300 to 750 milligrams per capsule, and many brands suggest daily totals in the ballpark of 600 to 3,000 milligrams per day, divided into 2 or 3 doses. Some guides and companies mention up to about 3,600 milligrams per day in adults, again split across the day, but there is no official recommended dose from major medical organizations.
A cautious, common-sense pattern many clinicians use with new supplements is start low and go slow. For monolaurin, that might mean starting with 300 to 600 milligrams once a day with food, seeing how your body reacts for a week, and only then slowly working toward the dose you and your clinician decide on, if you even need one. Some people report flu-like die-off feelings if they jump to very high doses suddenly, things like headache, fatigue, and body aches, but this is based on self-reports rather than controlled trials. Because monolaurin is fat-based and not very water-soluble, it's absorbed better when you take it with a meal that contains some fat. Think at least a teaspoon or 2 of healthy fats like olive oil, avocado, nuts, or a modest amount of coconut. If you take it on an empty stomach, you're more likely to get nausea or stomach upset. Absorption may be reduced if you're on fat-blocking medications like orlistat, or if you have conditions that interfere with fat digestion, such as certain pancreatic or gallbladder problems, so that's something to discuss with your doctor. What about cost and quality? Monolaurin is usually mid-range in price, not as cheap as basic vitamins like vitamin C, but usually less than many specialized herbal blends. You'll see a wide range depending on brand, dose per capsule, and whether it's marketed as a premium product. Look for third-party testing logos when possible, avoid products with lots of unnecessary fillers, and check that the source of the lauric acid is clear, for example from coconut, not an unspecified vegetable oil. Remember, there is no recognized monolaurin deficiency syndrome, so instead of who is deficient, it's honest to ask who might reasonably explore this with their clinician, knowing that evidence is still early.
One group is people who eat almost no lauric acid at all. For example, someone on a very low-fat diet who avoids coconut, palm, and full-fat dairy, but is curious about whether lauric acid and monolaurin might support gut or immune health over time. Another group is people who are frequently run down with recurrent infections and are already doing the basics: sleep, stress management, vaccination where appropriate, hand washing, and balanced nutrition. In that case, monolaurin might be one more tool in the broader immune support toolkit, not a standalone fix. A third group might be people with specific issues under specialist care, such as chronic vaginal infections or skin conditions where topical monolaurin products are being studied. Here's a simple self-check you can do. Ask yourself, how often do you eat lauric acid-rich foods like coconut oil, coconut milk, or unsweetened coconut? How is your digestion? Do you tolerate fats well, or do they cause discomfort or loose stools? How often are you getting sick? And are the basics like sleep, movement, and stress actually in place yet? And finally, what medications are you on, especially for cholesterol, blood pressure, blood thinning, or immune-related conditions? Jot those down before you talk with your clinician. In terms of lab work, there's no routine blood test for monolaurin levels. If you're thinking about adding a fat-based supplement, reasonable tests to discuss with your doctor include a fasting lipid panel to watch LDL cholesterol and triglycerides, liver function tests, and kidney function if you're on multiple medications. In some integrative clinics, you might also see advanced fatty acid panels or stool microbiome testing, which can give a broader picture of your fat metabolism and gut bacteria, but those are not necessary or standard for most people. Let me paint 3 quick real-life personas to make this concrete.
First, the budget-conscious eater. You cook mostly at home, money is tight, and supplements feel like a luxury. For you, it probably makes more sense to start with food. Maybe swap one processed snack for some unsweetened shredded coconut with fruit, or cook a curry with a modest amount of coconut milk. That way, you're getting lauric acid plus fiber and phytonutrients while staying within your budget. Second, the vegan or plant-based eater. You don't do dairy and you're careful with saturated fat. Monolaurin actually fits fairly well here because the lauric acid in supplements usually comes from plant sources like coconut or palm. If your cholesterol is in a healthy range and your clinician okays it, you might use small amounts of coconut-based foods and, if needed, a low-dose monolaurin supplement with meals during seasons when you feel more run down. But again, plants first. Plenty of fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains do more for your immune system than any single supplement. Third, someone with a chronic health condition. Say, a woman with recurrent bacterial vaginosis, or a person with a stubborn skin condition under dermatology care. Research has tested a 5% monolaurin vaginal gel in around 120 women with bacterial vaginosis, used twice daily for 3 days, and it showed better clinical cure rates than a placebo gel, with good short-term tolerability. That's topical, under medical supervision, and very different from taking oral capsules bought online. If this is you, the best move is to ask your gynecologist or dermatologist whether any monolaurin-containing products are appropriate in your specific case, and not to self-treat infections with over-the-counter monolaurin alone. Now, time for an evidence reality check. Overall, the strength of evidence for monolaurin supplements in humans is early and limited. A detailed review of the scientific literature found only 3 human studies showing antimicrobial effects of monolaurin in vivo, and all 3 used topical products, not oral capsules. One trial looked at monolaurin vaginal gel for bacterial vaginosis, another at mouth or gum applications, and others at cream for skin conditions. More recent work has tested combination products, such as nasal and mouth sprays containing monolaurin plus other active ingredients for mild COVID-19, with promising symptom improvements. But because several ingredients were used together, you can't credit monolaurin alone.
As for oral monolaurin supplements for things like colds, flu, herpes, chronic fatigue, or general immune boosting, large, high-quality human trials just aren't there yet. Major reference sites categorize monolaurin as having insufficient evidence to rate its effectiveness for these conditions, and they highlight that most of the exciting antimicrobial data comes from test tube studies, not living people. That doesn't mean it does nothing. It means we don't know how much, how often, or in whom it helps in a reliable, measurable way. What about safety and interactions? The good news is that when used in amounts found in foods, monolaurin and related monoglycerides are considered safe by food regulators. The less clear area is long-term high-dose supplement use. Reported side effects are usually mild and include digestive upset, nausea, loose stools, cramping, headache, and occasional skin rashes. These are more common when people start at high doses. Serious side effects appear rare in the published literature, but remember that absence of evidence is not the same as proof of zero risk. Medication interactions are not well mapped out. Because monolaurin is a fat-based substance and may influence cell membranes, it's wise to be cautious if you're on multiple medications that depend on liver metabolism, blood thinners, or immune-modulating drugs. This is exactly where your doctor or pharmacist earns their keep. Let them know what you're taking. People who are pregnant or breastfeeding should be especially careful. Yes, monolaurin occurs naturally in breast milk, but that doesn't automatically mean taking large supplemental doses is safe. Major references advise avoiding medicinal doses in pregnancy and breastfeeding due to lack of data. Red flags to stop monolaurin and seek medical help include severe or persistent abdominal pain, ongoing diarrhea or vomiting, difficulty breathing, swelling of the lips or face, hives, confusion, or any sudden worsening of an existing medical condition. And, as always, don't try to self-treat serious infections like high fevers, chest pain, or severe shortness of breath with supplements alone.
Let's do a quick myth-busting lightning round. Myth 1. Monolaurin kills every virus, so I don't need vaccines or medical treatment. Reality? Most of the antiviral data is from lab dishes, not humans, and it doesn't replace evidence-based care. Myth 2. Because it's in breast milk and coconut, any dose is automatically safe. Reality? The dose makes the poison. Natural substances can still cause side effects at high supplemental doses, especially with other medications on board. Myth 3. If I'm always tired or getting sick, monolaurin must be the missing piece. Reality: fatigue and frequent infections usually have many causes: sleep, movement, stress, and diet. And monolaurin, if used at all, is just one small optional tool. To wrap this up, here are the big takeaways. Monolaurin is a fat-based compound your body can make from lauric acid, found in coconut and some other fats. It shows interesting antimicrobial effects in lab studies and some promising results in small, topical human trials, but solid evidence for oral supplements in everyday infections or general immune support is still limited. Food sources like modest amounts of coconut products can support your natural production, but they also raise your saturated fat intake, which isn't ideal for everyone. Supplements typically range from a few hundred to a few thousand milligrams per day, but there's no official best dose, and side effects, though usually mild, do happen. If you want one practical action step for today, here it is. Take an honest look at your current immune basics: sleep, movement, stress, and diet. And if you're still curious about monolaurin, bring it up at your next appointment. Ask your clinician whether starting with food-based lauric acid, like a small, sensible amount of coconut in your meals, makes sense for you before considering a pill. Have you ever tried monolaurin or coconut-based supplements? What did you notice, if anything? Share your experience in the comments and let us know what supplement you would like to learn about next.